And I was in my boss's office actually getting a promotion and a raise when the phone rang and they called me out. And all I heard was my husband's voice over the phone. It's like 10 a.m. and he said, "Something's wrong with Erin, we have to go home." Got to the babysitter's house and she's just all and my child is laying on the couch and he's not in the clothes I took him in at 7:30. He's in the clothes I kept there for in case he had, got his clothes dirty and she'd never used them. And I thought he was dead. He was in a coma. One eye was going one direction, the other eye was in the back of his head. You couldn't see it. And then when I picked him up, he quit breathing. I resuscitated him while carrying him to the vehicle and drove, and my husband drove to the hospital to Primary Children's. All I knew from what the babysitter said was, "I think he had a seizure and then he went like that." That was all we knew. So we get him to the hospital emergency room and nobody can treat him. Nobody knows what happened to him. Nobody knows what's wrong. So all we knew is he had a seizure. So they spent the next almost 8 hours checking him for sugar diabetes, epilepsy, questioning me and my husband separately over and over. They knew it was child abuse, but I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. They finally put him in an ambulance and took him to LDS Hospital for a brain scan. And then that's when the detectives, the police got involved, everybody got involved and were pointing fingers at us. What happened to your child? And she took him into her daughter's bedroom and laid him on the floor to change him. And he was still crying because he was soaking wet. And she took him by the shoulders and shook him till his brain was damaged. And then she launched him across the room. And he hit the dresser on a flat surface, which is why he didn't have any bleeding or anything showing. And that's when he had the seizure. Because she fractured his skull so bad. And she actually took all his clothes off and changed him into his clean clothes I'd left there 5 months before that almost didn't fit him anymore. She hurried and changed him and then freaked out and called her sister. "Something's wrong with Erin, you gotta come help me." She had my doctor's number, my pediatrician's number. She had who doesn't know 911? And we found out why later, because he had an old skull fracture. When they did the brain scan at LDS, they found an old one that was 3 months old that was healing. And I remember picking him up in November, and he had a soft spot. And I took him to my mom's because she lived close to her house. And my mom and I called the pediatrician. Of course, it was a Friday night. The pediatrician wasn't in. They had an on-call guy. I told him what was wrong that was not normal, but they said make sure he's not sleeping too much. If you see any behavior change, let me know. So I guess whatever blood had come from that fracture had absorbed into his skin, and I did mention it to her on Monday when I took him to her house. She denied knowing anything about it, but it was all on record at my doctor's office. So when we went to court, it all came up. And when I talked to Julie Hatch in Child Development one day, and she found out about Erin, she said, "Would you come talk to my class about this?" And that's where it started. These kids in the summer and on the weekends are tending their siblings, they're tending neighbor kids, they're caretaking their elderly grandparents. I just wanted to teach them to pick up a phone and not a child, because 1 minute of anger, 1 second of anger can make someone's life,
end up like Aaron. But mostly the kids I love that I teach and kids I don't even know that I just know from in the hall and at school. I would hate to think that one of them ruined their life or someone else's because a baby cried. If you time yourself out and you don't touch that child, if they're having bad behavior, your behavior being bad is not going to make theirs better. And they all learn from your example. And I just wanted the kids to know that. And it kind of started out, especially before summer, 2 years ago, before summer break. The kids, a lot of them earn money in the summer by tending their siblings or their neighbors' kids. And I just didn't want anyone to be hurt or anyone to deal with all the laws that we changed and put into effect. Bam, they're going to slam them now. They're going to slam the next person that gets caught doing it. And I just didn't want to see that.